Hi guys, Darren from venomfluidart. Thank you so much for joining me today. What I planned on doing today was just having a little bit of fun and showing you some really cool tricks that you can get away with just using basic tube paints, water and a little bit of Joe Sonia. So we've got a range of Pebeo tube paints. We've got some Joe Sonia gloss varnish. We have Amsterdam lamp black. And we have some distilled water mixed with a little bit of Joe Sonia. So that's 3 parts water to 1 part Joe Sonia. Okay? It's what we use for thinning down our paint. So what I'll do is move some of this stuff out of the way and we'll mix up some colours and have a little bit of a play. Right, I've got some little plastic cups here. That will stick down here. Some little mixing sticks, they're just like little paddle pop sticks. And what we're going to do is grab some tube paint and mix them all up. So there's the fluoro pink. This one is an iridescent blue. I'm just putting blobs in. I'm not going by ratios because all the paints are different viscosities. Some are thicker than others. So we're just going to work it out as we go along. Alright. So that one was fluoro yellow. This is iridescent violet blue. We'll go with the green, which is the green yellow. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that'll do. We'll stick with those colours, I think. Otherwise, we'll spend all day mixing up colours. Now, what I'm going to do is get some Joe Sonia. Give it a squirt in each one. So what I do that for is because we're adding water to the paint and we don't want the paints to break up. So we're just going to mix that in. And we're going to do exactly the same thing with all the different colours we've got here. So I think probably to save time, otherwise this will be like a 4-hour episode. I'll mix up 1 colour or 2 colours and I'll just do the rest off camera. So what I'm going to do is start adding a couple of drops of water. So there's 10 drops. We'll mix that in. That's still pretty thick like a tube paint. We want it to be able to be a little bit thinner than what it is. Alright, so it's still quite thick. What I'll do is I'll zoom this camera in. Make it a bit more easier to see. Alright, so we'll add another 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another 10 drops. Just go a little bit at a time, little bit at a time. Mix it right in thoroughly. Alright, so that's starting to get a little bit thinner now. There's another 10 drops. And they're only just like tiny little drips, so just go little bit by little bit. Mix that in. Still a little bit too thick for what we're going to do with it. Another 10 drops. This is where a bit of patience comes in handy. Just mix it all in. Make sure you've got them all the same consistency that you're going to be using. Right, that's getting pretty close now. So that drizzles off the stick. Leaves a nice little mound. Might go 5 more drops. Mix that in. Okay, that's pretty close. I like my colours really thick. It stops them bleeding into each other, especially for blooms and swipes and things like that. Alright, so that's the consistency I use. So we've done nothing special with that, except for add some Joe Sonia and water to it. Right, we'll do the same thing with this green yellow. And of the opaque colours that you use will be thicker, so you'll have to add a little bit more water, a little bit more Joe Sonia. Like I said, the Joe Sonia is only there so it doesn't break the paint up when we stretch it out and do blooms or swipes or something like that with it. So I'll add some there. Alright, so that had 10 drops. Go another 5. See what I mean about different colours will need less water and less Joe Sonia than others. So that's pretty close there. We'll go another 5. The other one took 40 drops. This has only taken 20 so far. Well, 15. Probably go 20 on it. It's pretty close. Yeah, go another 5. So all it is just little bit by little bit. Now these things are going to be full of bubbles when you finish mixing them all in. So leave them overnight. Give them a tap on the bench every now and again. It'll help get the air bubbles up to the top. Yeah, that's perfect there. That's what I want for my consistency. Alright, so there's 2 colours. I'll go through and mix all these other ones up. Then we'll come back and do a cell activator. Okay, so I'll mix these and make them the same consistency as that. And we'll come back to the CA. Okie dokie. So we've got all the colours mixed up now. And they are all roughly that consistency. Try and get them as near as possible to what that is. So that leaves a couple of seconds trace on the top. It's nice and thick. And you should be good. You'll be able to see all the bubbles start coming to the top while you're mixing, like that. Just give them a tap. Best if you can leave them overnight before you use them, That way it gives all the bubbles a chance to soak to the surface, so they're not all going to be in your painting. So you just give them all a tap. That helps the bubbles. Pop that one. Okay. So what we'll do is put these over here to one side. Okay, cell activator time. This is the fun bit. We are going to use our Amsterdam lamp black, which is this guy. So pop the lid on that. Got to use a little measuring stick. You don't need to, you can just blob it in, but for the sake of it, we'll use this. So you want that as close to level as you can. Put that down somewhere out of the way. There you go. Alright, so we've got to scoop it in. Get that all out of there. So that one there is 1 teaspoon. Alright. So 1 teaspoon of Amsterdam lamp black. Then we'll grab our water and just start adding bit by bit. So we'll start with 10 drops. Mix that in. Good. Help if I had the thing in shot, wouldn't it? Okay, so we'll add another 10 drops. Right, that's starting to thin out a little bit now. Not enough. Another 10 drops. So you got like 30 drops of water in that. Make sure you scrape the bottom, scrape the sides. Okay, it's still way too thick. Another 10. Now, when you're mixing all of these, if you screw the pooch and make it way too thin, just add a little bit more paint to it so you can thicken it back up again. That's the beauty of doing this. If you get it wrong, you can always just add more paint to it, thicken it back up. If it's too thick, just add a little bit more water and J. Sonia. That way you can thin it out. Another 10. Alright, that's starting to thin out. Still too thick for what we're going to do with it. So all we're doing is just going little bit by little bit by little bit. That way you don't have to add more paint if you get it too thin. Okay, still a little bit. Who'd have thought mixing paint could be this much fun? Okay, still a bit thick. And the thing is, once you've done this a few times, you'll get used to roughly how much you need to start with. So you don't have to just keep adding a little bit by little bit. You'll get used to going, okay, I need that much water. There's a squirt. Boom, thanks for coming. Alright, that's still a little bit thick. Doing it this way, it's good practice so that you can see how much the consistency changes by how much water you're actually adding to it. Okay, that's getting pretty close. So this here that we're doing today is just a little bit of fun for people just starting out with pouring and don't want to spend hard-earned money on your fancy house paints and fancy pouring mediums and things like that, especially when you're just learning. You can get some pretty cool results with just paint and water. So you can have a bit of a play and get used to doing your swipes, getting the right angles of your swipes, blowing out blooms, things like that. Just so that you're not wasting tons of money on fancy pigments and all the other fancy pouring mediums, AUSSIE flow trolls, things like that. Alright, so where's the camera? Hard to see with it being black, but that, where's the light? That's really hard to see on this camera. Alright, so it's quite thin. Just about drizzles off the stick. Now, because it has no flow troll in it, it doesn't have the bounce that flow troll usually does, but it's still going to work. Alright, so it's quite thin. You'll notice it comes off more in it like a little stream and then drips. Not that you can really see on that because it's black on black, but that's pretty much to where we want it to be. So what we'll do is move these things out of the way, and we will do maybe a bloom and a swipe with just paint and water and see how they turn out. Hopefully they work well. So I'll move this all off to one side and we'll get started. Okie dokie. So what I have here is an old MDF round that I was playing with, oh, I don't know, probably 12 months ago now. And I'm going to paint straight over the top of it. So this here is just British Paints low sheen house paint. In the States you can use your Sherwin-Williams, your Glidden Premium, anything like that. it just works out a lot cheaper using house paint for a pillow compared to tube paints for a pillow. You buy a gallon of this stuff pretty cheap compared to if you were buying a gallon of Amsterdam tube paint or something like that. So that's why we tend to use this stuff. It works out a hell of a lot cheaper in the long run. You don't have to, you can still use tube paints as your base if you like. Entirely up to you. Alright, so we'll put that down. And we'll start adding our colours. Now, keep in mind, these haven't been sitting overnight. So there will be a whole heap of bubbles. Guaranteed. Which could be cool, because it gives you different sort of designs as the bubbles pop through all the different colours. So this is our fluorescent yellow. But yeah, naturally if we'd left them overnight, we wouldn't have anywhere near as many bubbles as what this has it in right now. Right, so we'll go with our next one. You can see all the bubbles. Yeah, it's all good. It's going to be fun. Alright, got that one. What else shall we use? Go with our green. Now pink. So the pink's fluoro. And blue. All right, we've got that. Here's a cool trick to see whether your cell activator will actually work as a cell activator. Okay, so here's our black we mixed up. What we'll do is put a dot there, and you should see a halo appear around the outside of it. Don't know whether that'll focus, but see how you get a little halo? When you get that little halo, you know it's going to work as a cell activator. Another thing you can do is just add some pillow paint down onto a tile, something like that. Spread it out over your little swipe tool. And just give it a swipe across your pillow. If it cells up like that, you know it's going to work as a cell activator. That way you can test your cell activator before you go in and mix up all the paints and things like that. You know it's going to work before you even start doing the other stuff. Okay? Pop some of these bubbles because there's millions of them. That's another reason why we say leave your paints overnight before you actually use them. Because as you can see on that, I don't know whether you can actually see it, but what I'll do is I'll add a little screen reel in so you can see all the bubbles that are actually in those paints before we go any further. Okie dokie. So we'll blow this one out as a bloom, I think. Yeah, why not? So I'm going to add the paint and water. Oh, there's a blob of stuff in that one. Oh, nice. Get rid of it. Because I'm using a mini blower, I tend to put a lot more cell activator down than you would if you were blowing it out by mouth, just because of the way the mini blower blows things around. Okay. Right, we'll start with that. Move it back into the middle a bit. Grab our straw, give the cell activator a bit of a blow. Okie dokie. So that's what we've got so far. Now if you want, you can grab a little skewer, have a bit of a play, put some little patterns through. Oops. Like that. Now we'll spin this one out. Helps if it was in the middle, wombat. I know, right? That's closer. Might pop some more of these bubbles. So yeah, definitely pays to leave it overnight. Don't just do what I'm doing where you mix it and then use it, because you will get a ton of bubbles through it. Okie dokie. We'll pop that one up. Where's my little popper tool? There it is. And that's what we got. So when you're first learning to do blooms, there's nothing to stop you just buying some tube paint. Preferably Pebeo, works really well for it. Amsterdam is another one that works really well for it. you can get away with Reeves over here in Australia. That works not too bad. But realistically, you're better off to use Amsterdam as your cell activator, because it's going to give you crazy stuff. The Pebeo has a lot of shimmer and shine in it because it's like iridescence. It's like a pearlescent colour. So, like, I don't know whether the camera will pick that up properly. Focus, you pile of junk. Okay. See, it has like a blue shift in it. That's the Pebeo iridescent blue violet. Violet blue, whatever it was. But no fancy tricks, no bullshit, just paint and water and a bit of Jace on you. So what I'll do is I'll throw this to one side and we'll do a swipe. That way we can see it works on both swipes and blooms. And we'll go from there. Okie dokie. Now, what we'll do is do a swipe. Go do it the same way. I'm just going to use an old MDF round that I'd painted ages ago and didn't like it. I usually keep them and just have them sitting there if I don't like it. Some dry really wonky if you haven't had your shelf level, or you've had really lousy weather where it's been windy as and you've had a draft come in. Sort of spoils your day, but what do you do? These things happen. So I just paint over the top of them. A lot of the time I'll put it on the belt sander and take the top off it, but for what we're doing today, I figured we'd just use this. Alright, so there's some pillow paint. We'll put our colours down like before. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a radial. Alright, so we'll throw the yellow down. Alright, we are now out of yellow. Go this one. Man, I love that colour. What colour was it? It was iridescent violet blue. So that's your number 356. Awesome colour. Love it. Right, so we'll throw that down. Might go with our green again. It's a pink. There you go, just enough to do a bloom and a swipe with. How good's that? And we didn't use hardly any paint, which is super cool. Got 2 paintings out of, you know, next to nothing, so. Alright. Start with that. Well, we're going to have to finish with that because I've used all the colours. Right. Move that into the middle. I'm not even going to pop the bubbles on this one because I'm going to do a radial swipe. And when the bubbles pop through, it'll probably look cool. Have different colours in it. Alright, so there's our cell activator, paint and water. Alright, gotta hold that on a little bit of an angle. Okay, get our trippy little radial going. Then if you want to, just for giggles, you can use the cell activator that we've made up, which is just paint and water. Obviously there's a bit of Joe Sonia in it because of the Joe Sonia that's in that water. You can add some crazy ghost cells around the outside. Doesn't matter what way you rotate it. You're still going to get crazy stuff. Alright. Grab my handy dandy skewer if I could find where I put it. Aha! There it is. I don't know how I can lose so much stuff inside one plastic tub. Unbelievable, Wombat. Alright, so now we're going to pop the bubbles. And you'll see other colours pop through those as well. So remember, none of this has silicone in it. It's just paint, water, Joe Sonia. That's it. Nothing fancy, no sneaky camera tricks, just paint and water. Give it a go. It's a load of fun. Alright, we'll put that down, give it a spin. So, move all this. Actually, I'll just get rid of all that. Don't need it. Give that a spin. Boom! Radial. So we'll pop that one up. Right, get underneath it. There it is. And there we have our radial. So I'll do a flyover of that so you can have a better look. Now, just remember, this is for beginners that are just starting out and don't want to spend a whole heap of money on fancy bits and pieces. Now, As far as longevity goes of this, could last 5 years, could last 10 years, could last 20 years. Who knows? It depends on how much sunlight it gets, what the temperature's like in the home where it is. The list goes on. You know, it's not gallery quality painting. Like, who does that anyway? But for just starting out and learning, this is the cheapest alternative you've got to buying Australian Floetrol at, you know, what is it, $70 a litre in America. Then you need your untinted house paint, you need your gloss varnish, the list goes on. This is nice, cheap and easy for you to practice before you step up to buying those other products. You know, you might get into paint pouring and totally not like what you're doing. You might not even like it. So there's no point spending hundreds and hundreds of bucks on pigments and other bits and pieces when you might not like it. But if you do, and you can produce this from just paint and water, imagine what you can do with the right stuff. Because quality products and ingredients make a huge difference to the end result. Okay? So, on that note, I shall leave you all for today. If that was any help whatsoever, please hit like, share and subscribe. Ring the notification bell. Ding ding. That helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. More people get to see my videos. And that's a good thing because beginners can do this sort of stuff then after they watch the video. So, that is it from me today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to learn a bit more about the paint and water cell activator, it's video number 86 from memory. That's a bit more in-depth in how the cell activator works with just paint and water. Alright guys, have fun, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.